Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Cardellichio again. I want to welcome you to another segment of Destination Health Podcast, Finding Function in a Dysfunctional World. And we have a very special guest on today. I'm very excited about our conversation. It's taken us a bit of time to finally find a time and kind of hone it down. You're busy, I'm busy, but Amanda, I want to welcome you to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm good, Dan. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well today. This morning, my Facebook account was hacked.
Oh no.
Yeah, well, my Facebook account was hacked, and there's a new phone number in there. There's a new, an email in there.
Oh no.
So I have a friend of mine that does this type of stuff, and I was on the phone with him this morning. Frustrating. We've all become used to
living on social media.
Yeah, we've all become. Then I'm 60 years old, Amanda. What is that all about?
I know.
But you know what? We have a social media presence because of the businesses. We like to motivate, educate, and inspire individuals. But so they'll have it up in a couple of weeks. So those that hacked.
I've had my Instagram account hacked before, and it was devastating. Like, I was shocked at how truly devastated I actually was. And
you know
so
what? I don't know if it was like violated, right?
Yeah.
It was like I was violated. It's like I have personal pictures up there. I have business. Mainly it was used for business, my personal account. But there are people that would comment every morning because we had a rise and shine type of a post. And then we would put our podcast there, and all my friends would comment from all over the world. That was a great podcast, or maybe it wasn't so good. No, they never said that. So,
these hackers know that it's for a lot of us, social media has really influenced our business and especially in this day and age, our connections to people who we don't always get to see.
Especially over the last 2 years, with a pandemic and so forth and so on. But that's a conversation for another time, because that was a way to communicate with friends and family, Zoom calls, social media, and so forth and so on. You see your niece or your nephew, they won an award. You had no idea because they didn't call you, but then you see it on social media. You're like, I love you. That's great. How come you didn't call me to tell me? Anyway, so for those of you who don't know, yeah, right. We'll get it back.
It'll be back.
If not, then I'm gonna have to start anew, and I'll start anew. I pretty much know all my friends.
Yeah.
Anyway, so for those of you that know, Amanda is a certified strength and conditioning specialist, certified personal trainer, mindset coach, which we're gonna go there. Living in Brooklyn, New York. We were just talking about my accent. Sounds like I'm from Brooklyn. Activist, artist, and vegan. That's interesting. All wrapped up into one. Her work is rooted in compassion and purpose. She specializes in strength and conditioning for actors, singers, and dancers. We're going to go over that. And believes that fitness, I'm coming back, we can achieve self-love, community, and lasting happiness. So what brought you into the artist, actors, and dancers? Were you on stage at one time?
Yes. So I have kind of an interesting story as to how I went from acting to strength and conditioning.
That's a big leap. That's a big leap, right?
Yeah. It seems like it would be very like a big leap, and it seems like it would be very different in terms of acting versus exercise science and all that stuff. But what I've discovered through my work as an actor and then through my work as in strength and conditioning is that actors really are athletes, singers are athletes, dancers are athletes. And so that is really, long story, extremely short, how I got into strength and conditioning. So I majored in, I'll go into the long story. I majored in musical theater. That's what I got my bachelor's degree in. I pursued that for quite a bit of time, did shows around the country. Also had survival jobs of bartending when I wasn't acting, the whole
everybody's had those survival jobs, by the way, just to let you know.
Yeah. Not just artists, for sure. Yeah. And what happened was when I was in my senior year musical, I was in Legally Blonde, the musical. We were doing a jump rope number. For those of you who know it, Whipped into Shape is what it's called. And I had in that show, I injured my lower back. So it actually wasn't particularly only from that show that I injured my lower back. I believe that I wasn't properly given the resources that I needed in order to have a strong core, in order to be physically ready to perform. And that
Right.
happens to a lot of people who get injured,
Mhm.
is there's weaknesses and imbalances. And that was kind of just the catalyst of what led to my slip discs and
Mhm.
sciatica.
Right.
So I had such bad sciatica, which when you're 22 years old,
Mhm.
usually you don't have extreme lower back pain to the point where you can't walk, but that's where I was at. And so I went to a physical therapist, I hired a personal trainer, and I started my own journey of figuring out why I was having back pain. Eventually, I found my imbalances, I worked on what I needed to work on,
Mhm.
and my back pain was eliminated. And basically, I felt inspired because I was thinking, well, athletes, professional athletes, college athletes, even high school athletes. I remember my public high school that I went to
Mhm.
had a physical therapist and an athletic trainer on site. And this is a public high school. And so if we think about all of the resources that athletes are given
Mhm.
throughout their career, and actors and singers and dancers aren't given the same resources because it's just we're not thought of as athletes. It's no, shame on anyone. It's just that's kind of we don't think of ourselves that way. We don't think of ourselves as needing to
Mhm.
be the best athletes that we can be. So that's how I merged the two. I got my personal training certification first, and then I kept just educating myself because the industry is ever changing and growing, and I wanted to be the best I could be to serve all the people I want to serve. So I eventually got my master's degree in exercise science and nutrition, and
Awesome.
as well as my strength and conditioning certification and a bunch of other certs, but including corrective exercise and
You're a CS, corrective exercise specialist also.
yep, yeah,
Awesome.
CES, PES, all the
Mhm.
things.
All those ESs that you have. I
Yeah.
find this fascinating because in my own chiropractic practice, I have a master's in nutrition, so I do a lot of functional nutrition, functional medicine, and
Yep.
I have my chiropractic practice. And I treated a lot of dancers from the local high school where there's a in my town that I live in, each high school in the area is known for a particular thing. This one's known for law, this one's known for this. This one was known for dancing, singing, and acting and so forth. And so
Mm.
I had a lot of dancers that were patients. And I mean, I looked at this, and again, not knowing what a dancer goes through, because I mean, I don't know. Back in the '70s, we used to go to New York City, and well, anyway, that's a story for a different time. We used to dance. We used to have red, white, and black capezios. But anyway, you know, looking at their routine and looking what they did to their bodies,
Mhm.
looking at how they ate, because they had to be a certain weight, they had to look a certain way. It was like wrestling. You had to make weight, for a certain match, and they were athletes. They were working out all the time,
Mhm.
right? All of the maladies from low back pain, hip pain, knee pain, blown ACLs, plantar fasciitis, shin
Mhm.
splints was the same thing that we had when we were playing football and basketball and baseball during the
Yeah.
course of the day. So this is a great niche. I love this niche
Yeah. Thank
that
you.
that you have. And with the sciatica, boy, I had sciatica, right? That's just
It's the
that's
worst.
just really, really bad. How did that affect your life? Because I know when I have it, stay away. Just stay
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. Well, when I had it, it was, like I said, it was so bad that I couldn't go from a seated position to a standing position without like cricking into place. Like it took
Mhm.
me like a full almost 2 minutes to like be able to fully stand up and then walk. So I was not ever going from a seated position to a standing position. And it affected my life because I wasn't able to perform. How can you perform if you can't move? You can't
Yeah,
even do
because right.
basic things like sitting in a chair.
And how did that make you feel? Because I know that if I couldn't play football or whatever sport we were in, I was ornery, depressed, mad, angry, right? I'm sure you had the same types of feelings going on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was definitely feeling hopeless for sure, and felt like I wouldn't be able to pursue my dreams and all that I had. It definitely, I think nowadays it's less of a risk to kind of go into the arts, but I felt like at the time I was risking pursuing acting, and to have that kind of ripped away, it was devastating.
Right. So tell me, why veganism? What's that? Listen, I teach at a university at a
Yeah.
graduate level. I teach evidence-based nutrition. And
Hmm.
so in my clinical practice, I have all sorts, Amanda, there's all sorts of individuals who's on paleo, who's
Yeah.
vegan,
Hmm.
who's Mediterranean,
I love
who's
it.
keto, all of that. I mean, I have everything coming into my office, and
Sure.
some of those that are on the carnivore diet, they become more vegan when they leave, because if we do some blood work, those
Yeah.
that are vegan, they may eat different types of protein sources because we work with
Yeah.
their biochemistry. What was
Mhm.
that for you that you became a vegan?
Sure. Well, we can definitely dive into it. I've been vegan since 2016. And so
We're non-judgmental here, just to let
no,
you know,
no,
everybody.
I don't
You
feel
you can
judged.
you can you can you can
I'm
talk
trying
to
to
us.
figure out
I'm
where to
I'm your
start.
therapist right now, so
Yeah.
there you go.
I'm trying to figure out where to start. But first, I want to say that I love the functional side of what you do and this podcast, which is
Thank
where
you.
I feel connected here,
Right.
because ultimately, I mean, I'm not a functional health practitioner. That's not my area of expertise, but I know how important that stuff is. And if we're connecting the two of diet and then exercise and how I got injured, really the connection is kind of nipping it in the bud before it
Right.
happens. What
Right.
happened was I wasn't prepared to be in the positions. My body wasn't prepared to do the
Right.
exercise that I was being asked.
Right.
And it's the same thing with nutrition. If we're not focusing on it from a preventative measure, then we're going to get ourselves into trouble.
Mhm.
And I became vegan initially because at age 25, one of my closest friends got diagnosed with cancer. And I was confused because on the outside, I thought she was healthy. She was a dancer. We were roommates as well. So I saw the way she ate for the most part. And as I started to do research, I realized a lot of the propaganda within the meat and dairy industry. And that's kind of what has angered me the most, I guess. Do I think vegan is for everyone? No, I don't think vegan is necessarily for everyone. It has been something that has worked really well for me. I'm able to stick to it, and it allows me to take the approach of eating a lot of fiber and eating whole foods.
Right.
And so that paired with the activism side of it, which is looking at our sick care system, not our health care system, our sick care system, and how it's all related.
Mhm.
The meat and dairy industry funds a lot of the propaganda that we see that says we need milk to get calcium. They fund the propaganda that we see that says we need meat in order to get protein, and we need protein, and obviously we need protein, but a lot of people don't understand that we need a lot less protein than most Americans, especially, are actually consuming. So for me, it's I don't want to spend my money on supporting an industry that is essentially making us sick or making us believe things that aren't necessarily true. So yeah, I hope that answers that.
No, no, you know what? We all, when it comes to certain things like this, excuse me, functional medicine, clinical nutrition, functional nutrition, everybody has a personal experience
Hmm.
where they change. I had a heart attack when I was 37.
Wow.
My triglycerides were 1,227. I found the blood work. I should have brought it up if I didn't know I was going to mention it today. But but I was stressed. I had an office in New York. I had an office in New Jersey. I was out on Long Island, and it was just a very stressful time. Things were changing in the healthcare industry, and I mean, fast food was my friend, and I never really ate fast food in that quantities, and
Yeah.
so it just had this adverse effect on me. So when you have these personal experiences, right, you just decide to change for
Hmm.
what you think is the best. And, I was just researching. I was Dr. Google at the time, before I
Yeah.
went for my master's degree,
Hmm.
and, I did get into a whole food plant-based diet. I ate a lot because it's good for a hyperlipidemic type of a situation. I was finally diagnosed with familial hyperlipidemia.
Mm.
I do add in fatty fish. I mean, I like that. That works well with my biochemistry. If I do eat beef, I do have grass-fed instead of
Mm.
grain-fed beef because there's more omega-3 fatty acids as to the
Yeah.
omega-6 fatty acids. And like I said, in my personal practice, I have so many different types of individuals
Yeah.
coming in. We change it. We do some of the food intolerance testing, food sensitivity
Yeah.
testing. I'm thinking of one vegan that was coming in, they were gaining weight, they weren't feeling well, a lot of bloating, but their diet, that what they were eating was working against them. So we changed it a little bit and they were,
The
they
tricky thing with vegans is when it's, vegan is more of it's not just a diet. It's very much a part of people's identities and in the lifestyle of kind of the activism behind it, whether it's environmental or animal cruelty. So I find that that is the hardest thing for some vegans. If I remember, I was following this one woman on Instagram who she built her following and her blogs and her career off of her plant-based meals, her like 10-minute plant-based meals. And she, I think, went to a doctor. She was having some sort of health something or other, and she basically announced that she was no longer vegan, and she got so much backlash from the vegan community. So unfortunately, I do realize how harsh the vegan community can be. And in terms of mindset, you mentioned, I do talk a lot about mindset. A lot of times what's holding us back from really succeeding is our mindset and our identities around certain things. So if we identify so solidly as being vegan, but for whatever reason, veganism isn't necessarily what's working, then it can be really hard for people to make that change. And I mean, not even just with that, but if you identify as somebody who is out of shape, or you were
Right.
told your whole life that you're destined to have a heart attack, or diabetes runs in your family, and you start to take on the identity of, oh, diabetes runs in my family, or I've never been a person who likes kale. That's so simple and so silly, but it's true. If we tell ourselves, I don't like this, or we identify in a certain way, or maybe we're brought up on a ranch in Texas and we are a part of farming and a part of a cattle, whatever, that can be really challenging as well, because we identify with that. Our worth is tied to these outside things.
Right. I understand. I have a niece who's a vegan, and
Mhm.
she's very staunch with it. She did have to change a little bit at one point in time, and she's still a vegan, but she did have to add in different types of food sources. And what I find interesting also is that you can go to any diet. If you talk to people on the keto diet, they feel the same way about
Mhm.
the keto diet. And
Yep.
I'm with you also because there are those where a certain diet may not work well for them, and they may have this whatever towards, they may gravitate towards it, but it has to change because you have to do what's right for your body, in addition to. So, I mean, the keto diet could have its
Yeah.
implications. Every diet has their has
It's hard to know, I think, because there is so much conflicting evidence, and there's one moment the science says it's healthy to consume coconut oil, and the next moment the science says never mind, and the next moment it says wait, you can do it but in moderation. So it's really hard, I think, for people to know what to do. And
right,
so it can feel challenging in that sense.
right.
I'm all about experimenting and trying new things. I went gluten-free a year ago. That has also been super successful for me.
Mhm.
I know that like in functional health, that's like a thing a lot. Gluten-free is like a
Can
go-to for
be,
a lot of
sure.
people. Um, and that has been, successful, just trying different things and trying out and experimenting what works for you. I think the ultimate goal though is to just eat as many whole foods as possible, stay
Right.
away from processed stuff. That's really going to be your best bet.
You know what? I think that's the whole crux of this part of our conversation, and I agree with you. Stay away from the processed foods, because I can tell you, and I've mentioned this before in my podcast, that there was a study that was done it was published in the Mayo Clinic. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. My partner had given it to me. She's an integrative internist, and the only thing I remember about the article is that processed foods are readily available,
Mm-hmm.
very affordable, and highly palatable. They're made that way so that you consume more of them. And
Mm-hmm.
when somebody comes into my office, we do food sensitivity testing. We do it's blood testing. We blood test for leaky gut. We look at the enzymes. You look at the actin and so forth and so on. So, we get very specific with what it needs to be. And the vegan I was talking about, what they were eating was working against them. We just replaced it with other types of whole food, plant-based foods that were
Mm.
better for their biochemistry as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to what they were eating, because that just wasn't happy for them. That wasn't happy for their body. But I
Yeah.
agree with that. You got to stay away from those processed foods because it leads to obesity, right? It leads to
Mm-hmm.
diabetes and cardiovascular issues, autoimmune
Right.
condition,
It
insulin resistance.
exposes anything that's underlying. So if we have diabetes or obesity that runs in our family, what eating processed food and junk and sugar and bad fats does for us is it exposes
Mhm.
those genetic
Yeah, it will exacerbate whatever underlying conditions you have. I agree with that 100%. So we're on the same page with that.
Yeah.
And you know what? Not every diet works for that works for everybody.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go back to the actors and the dancers. You know,
Sure.
I agree. There's this athletic component and so forth. And
Hmm.
what are some of the physical challenges that you find with this group, with your avatar, right? This is your niche. What are
Yeah.
some of the physical challenges that these individuals face that you have to deal with, whether it's from mindset, you're making a couple of nutritional recommendations, and you gotta get them in shape. They gotta be ready to perform. What are some of the physical challenges that you have?
Well, a lot of it is mindset. This idea that we have to be fit for Broadway or built for the stage or look, good for film and TV. And I always believe that when we're exercising for aesthetic reasons, it's never going to last.
I agree.
So that is a huge mindset barrier for a lot of people that I work with. But I think this day and age, we're becoming a lot more open to that idea of loving ourselves where we are and accepting our bodies for where it's at. And honestly, size and shape does not determine your athletic ability. So that's the other thing is, if you look at a football team and you look at the different size and height and shape of people on a football team, there's a place for everyone there. And it's the same idea that I hope to bring mindset wise to my clients, but also that I hope is the direction that we're moving in theater and film. And it's definitely for sure controversial, I think, in the health and wellness space, because obviously obesity is linked to other external or physical and health issues. But at the same time, I think the standard that is oftentimes put on dancers or actors is not always attainable. And so kind of shifting our mindset and the other thing is a lot of actors, they have a lot that they already need to invest in their careers, headshots and dance classes and paying an agent and master classes with casting directors and all of this stuff. And a lot of them put the health and wellness side aside. And they don't always invest as much as I believe that they should, time and their money, because if you aren't well in your body and you're prone to injury, because essentially choreography and blocking for the stage is repetitive movement. And when you're doing repetitive movement over and over again, you're bound to create imbalances. And
you get those repetitive traumatic injuries, they're called. And it's just like somebody that's hammer all day long or screwdriver all day. It's the same thing, because if you're a prima ballet dancer, you're on your toes all day long, and your back, your knees, your hips, and your ankles are and your toes are destroyed.
Exactly.
I've seen that.
Yeah, you're a chiropractor, so you've seen it all. But exactly. So it's not sexy and it's not appealing in the health and wellness industry to promote injury prevention and corrective exercise. But I don't really know what else to say, because that's what we need to be doing in order to extend.
That's where you come in.
That's where I come in.
That's where you're coming in. And you know what? This is, when you're talking, I think of a couple of things that, I have some comments that, different sizes and shapes. You're talking about a football team. My son plays hockey. My son's a big boy, and, we did his body comp, and it was, he's 30 something percent, 33%, 34% body fat, Now that's a case where I think that, you need to work on that a little bit and say, hey, listen, it's not healthy, because, teenager going, into high school, you take those poor eating habits because you're a teenager, you're eating pizza, you're eating, whatever the case may be. And I have a slice of pizza every now and again.
Of course. Me too.
and you know what happens too is that with obesity, we don't shame anybody in our office. And the only thing I say to individuals is this: listen, you can be thin and you can have a very high percent body fat because that's the way your body is. And we have to work on that if there is a
Yeah.
condition that's related to that,
Right.
right? Whatever that condition is. So if you're overweight, right, you can have a condition that's related to it. Maybe you walk up a flight of stairs and you're
Mhm.
breathing heavy, right?
Right.
So maybe your cardiovascular is not where it should be. And you need to, because I've had friends die. I'm 60 years old.
Yeah.
They can't walk. I'm thinking of one friend that she couldn't even walk across the living room without having to stop because she was just so over and she didn't take care of herself.
Mm.
So, it's what you had said before. It's preventative. You
It's
know,
yeah.
it's really preventative. And what I find interesting is, even if you go to your primary care and to get a physical or
Mhm.
something, get your blood pressure checked, get some basic blood work checked to see where you're at because you may not, I mean, that may be okay for you. It may not be okay for you. You have to find out what that is. You got to be proactive with
Yeah.
your health. And it sounds like the dancers and the actors and the singers need to be proactive. How do you bring them into your business? What do you say to them? What's that challenge?
Yeah. So I do primarily all of my marketing just through my social media,
Mhm,
and it's just about building trust with people,
mhm.
and consistently showing up and consistently showing the results of my clients. And um, a lot of people come to me asking, how can they work with me? And I have also some different ways of inviting people in as well. And
Right,
usually I like to have a full conversation with someone. It's not just a click of a button and you sign up, because it has to be very personalized to each person. So I'm not that type of just like fit influencer that's just like 29.99, like, workout routine. Cause that's the other thing is, because a lot of actors, singers, and dancers, they, again, talking about identity, they always a lot of times relate to the starving artist kind of aspect of it. And
when you're
so to
starting
do
out, no
that,
matter what you're doing, you're always starving.
yeah, 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 exactly. But they identify with that, and so they don't always prioritize their health, or they find other ways to get exercise in. I know that a lot of actors and dancers will, like, some of their survival jobs will be at working at maybe spin studios, or some of those hit classes.
Right,
But in reality, that's great to do those things once a week, but it's not addressing. Doing spin is now another repetitive movement that you're doing over and over again.
sure.
And
It,
doing
it's,
hit
it's yeah,
classes is an extreme form of exercise that really you should be doing about once or twice a week. And it's also not personalized to address your imbalances and to address where your body is at. So, yeah, it's really important that we just get real with how invested we are in this career. And do we feel like shit? Do we feel like
mhm,
we're not able to show up as the best version of ourselves? How are our
mhm.
auditions going?
Right,
How are we how do we feel in dance class? How are we able to get into dance class? Are we are h- basically, just how do we feel? Like, if we're not
right,
booking work, then we probably don't feel like good about ourselves. So it's just important to address some of those things and
right.
get to the underlying of what's really going on. And when it's not a lot of times actors think, oh, I'll be more castable if I look this certain way.
Right.
You'll be more castable if you take care of yourself and you're able to show
Right.
up as the best version of yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally, because I say the same things. I say the very same and similar statement, to be honest with you, with my patients when they come in, no matter if they're working on Wall Street or, totally different type of a job. It's always that way. You got to be, in order to perform, you got to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. In anything.
There's no doubt about it. What are some of the other challenges emotionally that you see with the actors and the dancers and the singers that they have that they don't want to? It's a financial thing. So everybody talks about financial. Is it a self-esteem issue? Is it self-respect? Because I noticed in my own patients, a lot of times, and I'm not a therapist, I
Hmm.
do refer out to a therapist, but there's always that underlying thing. I don't feel good about myself, right? Do you find that in your clientele? Do they not feel good about themselves?
Well, most of my clientele is very emotionally available, I'll say,
Mhm.
because we're kind of trained to do that. So a lot of us are an
Right,
open book. We feel
right,
our feelings.
right.
So that is usually a positive.
Mhm.
And if they're not, then we have to, talk about what is really holding us back. And oftentimes it's ourselves that's
Mhm.
really holding us back from making the steps.
What do you find in this community? What are the top three things that hold them back, or the top two things that hold them back? I'm interested. I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah. Well, I think it's again a lack of a belief that this type of training is needed because they think that they have other resources like spin studios. Not to knock any of these things. I love running. I do that for fun.
Mhm.
Not saying that that's something that can't be done ever, but really owning and understanding our body and really realizing how we can improve it so that we can reduce the risk of injury and we can have a long sustainable career. So the fact that a lot of actors and dancers, they maybe don't think they need this type of athletic sport specific strength and conditioning, lifting heavy type of
Right.
exercise. A lot of them also, again, the other struggle is finances, the struggling artist sort of idea, or not not wanting to invest for whatever reason. I get it. Sometimes it's scary to hire a one-on-one coach. But ultimately, what one-on-one coaches are doing is I have the expertise. I've committed my time to making this my
Right.
career so that you don't have to worry about it. And I think a lot of actors, they're into the hustle and grind and hitting the pavement and
Mhm.
working hard and struggling to get by. And so they oftentimes are just have that ego. It makes them want to do it on their own, when what they don't realize is if they had someone supporting them, then it would actually have it done. You would get your results faster, and you wouldn't have to do it on your own. So there's that. um what else? I feel like those are really the top two
Okay, so
things.
let's put you on the hot seat a little bit now. Not the hot seat, but we're gonna talk about you, Amanda. So, what are the struggles you have with eating? Forget
Mm.
about veganism. Forget about the slice of pizza every now and again. What is it that you struggle with? I mean, listen, my listeners know I love to eat, Italian
Mhm.
American. So I struggle with that. Grew up in an immigrant family where there was no finances initially. And I think that in part what happened is that I ate a lot at one point in time because there wasn't a lot of food at one point in time. So that was like a success type of a thing. And I was 260 pounds, man. I was 260. Now I'm about a buck 98. So I'm much happier at this weight. What were some of the struggles you've had with food growing up?
The struggles I've had. Well, I was extremely addicted to sugar at one point.
Hmm.
And that was really before I kind of found this journey. I would eat like a whole bag of Twizzlers just in one sitting.
What's
The
wrong
pull,
with that?
the pull apart Twizzlers, not the other ones. The other
Yeah, I
ones are
understand. I
gross.
understand. Oh yeah, I'm I'm salivating. I got a Pavlovian reaction right now. So
Yeah. I loved like gummy candies. That was definitely my favorite thing. And again, you kind of mentioned it earlier, these processed foods, they have that addictive quality. So once you kind of get on something, it's hard to break it. And it's the same thing with, the salt, sugar, fat idea. Those paired together are the most addictive. And that's usually what is in all fast food is fat and sugar and salt. And yeah, so I would not have any energy because I was addicted to sugar, and then I would reach for sugar to gain that.
When you crash, you have to come back up again.
Yeah, so that was a huge
struggle. Very common. Sure.
Yeah.
A lot of people who eat sugar, it's a physical addiction. Did you have any emotional eating in there, where there was something that was going on, where you needed to eat that sugar? Or was it just more of the physical aspect of it? I told you we get down and dirty.
I know. No one's ever really asked me this before. I know. I mean, not really. It was more so also once I kind of like, I gave up sugar and I was like, okay. And I was on a right path. And then once I became vegan, I then was addicted again, because whenever I found something that was vegan and like a baked good, I had to have it. And then it became this thing where I would start seeking out vegan baked goods. And yeah, it doesn't do anything for me. So at this point, I actually don't consume at all any added sugar. And I know a lot of people probably look at me and think that I'm extremely restrictive because I'm vegan, I'm gluten-free, I don't drink alcohol, I'm sugar-free. But it's easy for me because
it's your lifestyle and what you feel comfortable with. That's all.
It's my lifestyle. Yeah. I just have to decide what ultimately is serving me, what makes me feel like the best version of myself. Sugar does not. Alcohol does not. So I'm able to just make those commitments to not consume it. I'm not saying everyone is going to be like me, but for me, I just rather not have it.
Well, it's interesting you say this because we have similar parallel universes where I don't drink a lot of alcohol myself. I don't eat a lot of processed foods. We just got back from upstate New York from a hockey tournament. We were in Rochester, so not exactly a capital. There's nothing wrong with Rochester. It's just like where I grew up in Newark. It's not a capital of a lot of different types of restaurants that are this. There's a lot of burgers there and so forth and so on. And sometimes that's what has to happen. I try to bring healthy snacks for the ride up, but it's a 5.5 hour ride. You're in a hotel. It's a little difficult to bring food. There's no place to warm it up and so forth and so on. Although I guess my friends could say to me that I can, but people do look at, you and I differently.
Yeah.
But
I look at myself as normal. I think, why would I consume something that makes me feel sick? Why would I consume something?
What I say is my job is to motivate, educate, and inspire. That's what our, podcast theme is. So if I can motivate you, educate you, and inspire you to be a better version, like you said, of yourself, I've done my job. Whether you're seeing me or you're seeing Amanda or you're seeing somebody else, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Because we all have health issues and all have health struggles when it comes to this.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people think that they can't do it, and that's why they don't do it. Or they think I could never give up cheese. I could never give up sweets. I love it too much. I don't want to. Because the thing is I know that a lot of those things, they taste good. They do bring about joy. And if that is really something that you want in your life, then fine. If you want that. But the other thing is it really is just a matter of changing your taste buds. It takes time to change your taste buds, and then it also takes time to change your gut. So your gut literally has bacteria in there that is craving sugar. If you feed it sugar, it craves sugar. So it takes time for that stuff to die off. And eventually you're not going to want it anymore. You're not going to crave it anymore.
Right.
And I think that's what people don't understand, is that once you eliminate it and you're done having it and you don't consume it, then you pretty much don't want it anymore. Like I don't look at cheese, and I don't even think of cheese as food. I don't think of meat as food. I don't think of a lot of these things. Like, I don't think it's edible. The same way I don't look at my cell phone and think that my cell phone is edible. I don't look at cheese and think cheese is edible. So
I want to throw my cell phone because I can't get on Facebook. No, I'm only kidding. So
but yeah.
What you said is very important. And for everybody listening in, lean in now, because this is a pearl. You know, I hate the word can't on so many different levels, Amanda, whether, you know, you're setting a goal for yourself professionally or whatever that is. I hate the word can't.
Yeah.
I can't change my diet because I can't stop drinking this or that. That bothers me more than anything. And unfortunately, you know, as I'm getting older, and I've been practicing for, forget it, I'm not going to tell you how long. You know, the pain of taking something away from somebody sometimes is so great. And I sit there and I say, but it brought you to this point, but yet you're sitting here. Why are you here? Right. You know, what, you know, and you can use this because you know, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening, and I say, and I'll look at my patient, I'll say, yet you're here.
Yeah.
Yet you're here. You know, I mean, over the decades, the big food beverages is alcohol. People say, I can't give up alcohol. I'm dealing with the Wall Street type because they're out, you know, and they're doing business. They're at a power lunch and stuff, right? I mean, you live in Brooklyn, so I'm sure, you know, you come across these individuals, right? I live in Monmouth County. They're all over the place. I can't stop doing this. I can't stop doing that. I can't do this. I can't do the diet. I can't. And it just bothers me. And I look at their existing diet and I look at it and I say, you do have gut issues. You do have gut microbiota dysregulation because you're eating white bread with a pastry and butter and, you know, whatever. I mean, I have one patient, I said, I'm sorry, I don't know if this is for you.
Yeah.
She has food intolerances to dairy, especially eggs. She couldn't give up eggs. But stomach is just bloated and stuff when they eat the eggs. That drives me crazy. You know, does that drive you crazy when you're leading them down the primrose path and then all of a sudden, I can't. What do you mean you can't?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't force, I'm saying you can't, but you can't force people to see the light. And that is probably the most frustrating thing sometimes about being a coach or, you know, working with people is I actually can't force someone to take action. Their life is entirely up to them. My life is entirely up to me. Even if someone paid me $1 million to help them, it's still up to them to make the changes. They might have $1 million support, but what?
Hope you have a couple of clients that pay $1 million.
Me too. But yeah, it might be $1 million worth of support and $1 million worth of, you know, whatever you need. But ultimately, I can't sit there feeding you every day and babysitting you to make the changes. I can't smack the things out of your hands. Like, you are in charge of your own life. And a lot of people just have imposter syndrome and just don't think it's possible for them. Don't think it's possible for them to be healthy.
I use that in my office too. It's imposter syndrome. You can't change your life. You have to change your life.
Yeah.
You know, because if you don't, here's the saddest part of the podcast. You ready?
I'm ready.
You know what it is?
It's over?
We're almost done. Correct.
Oh.
Here's the saddest part. And, you know, we're at it for almost 50 minutes at this point. See, it goes fast, doesn't it?
Goes fast.
Goes very fast. So you know what? We're going to have you back on, Amanda, you know, a
I
couple
love
of months
that.
ago, because I think that we have so much more to discuss when it comes to this. And I think that we can have a really, you know, continue on with the great conversation. So if you were to give 3 tidbits to our listeners today about
Mhm.
health, physical, mental, emotional, I don't care what it is, what would you
Yeah.
say to them?
I would say quit quitting.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah. Quit quitting.
I'm writing that down.
The
Go ahead.
the other one that we were just saying is you are in charge of your own success. And then the third thing I would say is easy is earned.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that.
Those are my
Earned.
favorite phrases to use.
You
Yeah.
see, now everybody thought that she was going to say, take a multivitamin, take an omega-3 supplement, and take a probiotic. Take a probiotic.
Well,
All
you
right.
should do all of that as well.
Right. But I did ask Amanda this question, and sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. My listeners know this because I knew she was going to give me a much different answer than macronutrients and micronutrients. So
Mhm.
it's all good. So thank you very much for that. Quit quitting.
Yeah.
You are in charge. Easy is earned.
Mhm.
This has been exciting. Thank
Yeah.
you very
Thanks for
much for
having
coming
me.
on. We had a lot of fun, and
Yes.
my camera only went off once, so I'm happy about that. So that's good. And I want to thank everybody for listening in today. Amanda, tell me, how can people contact you? We recommend Amanda. She's knowledgeable, she's experienced, she's educated, she's got the skill set, everything that you need. So tell me, where can people find you?
Yeah. Well, you can follow me on social media. Train with Amanda Jane is my Instagram, my Facebook page as well. And you can email me at info@trainwithamandajane.com or visit my website, trainwithamandajane.com.
We're going to have that in the show notes. All right. We're going to have your email. We're going to have your website, and we'll have your social media contacts. And this is going to go all over the place, social media, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever. It's just going to go
Can't wait.
crazy. It's gonna go crazy all over the place. Amanda, thank you very much. It's been a great conversation. I enjoyed this. I want to thank
Thank you.
everybody for listening today. Live your best life, and we will see you soon. Thank you very much, Amanda.
Thank you.